I can have the council members back up, thank you. And staff. We're back in session. Thank you for your patience again, and hope everybody was able to do what they needed to do in 10 minutes.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Ralston.
Thank you. To move this along, in line with Mr. Crail's, I believe, articulate analysis of what might need to be done, I move that this council ask Mr. Pastu to develop an agenda strategy on the issues discussed tonight, to include all matters he believes we should consider, and that we should discuss that at the February 2nd council meeting.
I will second that.
And I have a comment after that. In other words, I'm agreeing with Councilman Crail to try to do that, and since Mr. Pastu is our city manager, and still our city manager, he should be recommending this to us, and this maintains the status quo until we see his plan, and it takes a true step backwards, gives us some breathing room, and nothing has changed, and it gives us time to think.
We have a motion, second, and a comment. Any other comments? Did you? Okay. Any other comments?
I'm going to need a little more specificity on that to understand what it is that I'd be voting either yay or nay for.
Sure. There have been a myriad of issues discussed tonight, and we could continue this meeting until February 2nd, and we'd still have a myriad of issues to discuss without having any hard copy recommendation, because it's Mr. Pastu as our manager that I believe should bring forth his plan that we can say yes or no to. And that might include issues with regard to Mr. Regentine. It might include any other issues he sees that will cause him to not want to resign and would cause us to have some breathing room for whatever number of months or whatever it will take. It's a step back to ask him to bring to us the details. There are so many tentacles out there that we don't have anything solid. And I'd like to see something in writing that suggests here's what he recommends to us. Is that enough?
Is there any other? Mr. Slade, anything else?
Yeah, thank you. While I understand that, there are so many other things not yet understood. There have been ghost issues thrown about that this council has taken action when I have seen nothing in the minutes. I've heard nobody say what has been done. The city attorney has not jumped in, nor is the city manager, nor is anybody, as pointing out a time when somebody violated the city charter. We're dealing with ghost issues. We're dealing with arguments of false or incomplete choices. You can either have a strong leader or you can have an administrative person. That's a false argument. I'm at a loss for understanding what more there is besides what Mr. Pastu has already given us and asked us to consider on February 2nd. If there is more, I'd like to understand it. However, for the citizens of this city, I think that Mr. Pastou's action is what I would prefer that we talk about on February 2nd, is what he's already put forth. If he would like to amend what he'd like to put forth, I'd certainly like to hear that. But right now, I'm more inclined to just work with what he's already talked about on January 19th. And it could be, I feel this way, because I've got a little bit more concrete stuff to kind of wrap my brain around on the January 19th information, rather than the yet unknown, somewhat yet unknown items of this motion. So those are my initial thoughts on that. So I guess that would be the main crux of my concern right now.
So Mr. Mayor, and council members, it seems to me if we do that on February 2nd, without having any goal or discussion to guide us, other than his letter, which covers a lot of territory and was not specific in some areas, in many areas, we're going to have another meeting like this tonight because we'll still be discussing the pros and cons of that. I think Mr. Crail's suggestion we take a step back is what I'm trying to accomplish. Maintain the status quo, and then ask for some plan to come forward. Now, I'd be happy to make a motion to give our support and recommendation for the continued employment of our city manager or the...
Mr. Olson, we already have a motion on the floor right now we're discussing.
That's what I'm discussing.
I know, but you're trying to introduce another motion?
No, I think
No.
Okay, I'm
I'm
sorry.
saying I'd be happy to, or what we would probably listen to, or be happy to make a motion to say, well, let's retain Mr. Pastou and give him our total support, and including Mr. Regentine, and end it now and move forward with a majority vote. But I think there is enough question in the council and in the audience, of course, that we don't have anything specific other than a motion to give our support for our current management team. And I think Mr. Pastou has some specific things he'd like to propose. If Mr. Regentine is going to continue, for example, maybe there should be a written contract he has. I don't know, there's been dozens of different tentacles out there for discussion, and I'm saying let Mr. Pastou give us a plan that we can discuss in details, because now it's nebulous and it's just going to create more acrimony. And to do what you suggest, you brought up some issues you thought, Mr. Slavy, we should think about. Well, that just brings up more acrimony, it brings up more discussion by our citizens about, well, we don't like the mayor, or we don't like Cal Rolfson, or we don't like any of these things, and we go into this nitpicking again. I think that isn't going toward marriage counseling. That's just going the opposite direction. And if the motion is understood to have that, the only way I think we can make any decisions is to have a specific recommendation in writing that here's what he recommends to bring this council together and to bring the citizens together. A specific written recommendation in 1 week. And trying to accomplish that, there we have something to chew on.
Ms. Phillip, did you have a comment? So your hand's getting ready.
Yeah, my only comment to that would be that I wouldn't necessarily be adverse to that, but I think that I would like to have the issues that Mr. Pastou sees and the issue that the mayor's, maybe empower the mayor to sit down with Mr. Pastou to delineate these issues so that there is a clear understanding of them from the very beginning.
Thank you. The mayor can certainly do that in my view, but I can't.
We've been discussing things already, so and I think we made that clear earlier in my conversations up to this point. Any other council have a comment?
Well, in Mr. Pastu's memorandum here, he said February 2nd he would have answers for us, so that's a week away. He's already has his intent here. That can be addressed as to how they want to massage it, if that's the case. And whatever action that you and Mr. Pastu come together on, we could address that on the February 2nd council meeting.
What I hear is that supports the motion because
Not quite. And, but anyway, no, my thought on this process right now, and on your comment, and you want more input from Mr. Pastu and the delineation of what he wants to do, wants the council to do, okay, I think was made very clear last week in his letter to the council, and what he wants to do. There's nothing stopping Mr. Pastu from, when we talk next week about the issue, that we can turn around and listen to any thoughts, suggestions, and that we need to look at. But right now, what we have from Mr. Pastu was already a letter to us, and I don't think we need to get another letter from Mr. Pastu at this point. My own personal right now at this. And no, we're not here. We're here to discuss an issue with Mr. Pastu, and not to really go beyond that. And we can continue this discussion. And right now, the discussion has been his letter and what it did to, basically what it's done to this community. And I just want to give a thank you again out to the people out here, because I noticed something. We have black shirts, we have everybody else, but this crowd is very well mingled out there, which I appreciate that we don't have one group sitting one way, another group sitting another way. So I think we all respect each other from that standpoint, that we all can sit together in a group, which is, I think, really nice. But personally, I cannot support a motion that you're talking about right now at this point. And because we're going to be discussing this, and we have the parameters to be discussing additional amounts, and we get the guidance next week. And if he wants to bring something, he's more than welcome to bring it.
so as I understand it, Mr. Mayor, that Mr. Pastu wants to make suggestions to us along the lines of my motion. He's free to do that.
He was free to do it anytime he wanted to. Yes.
Mayor? Oh,
No,
Yes,
Then Ms. Rich, please.
I'd like to ask Mr. Pastu a question. Mr. Pastu, what would it take for you to continue with our city?
I don't know at this point, since we're in the discussion right now, and if this is a fair question to ask Mr. Pastu right here, and I think we're going to be, he's already, and again, indicated in a letter to us what he wanted to do, and I think we can continue.
Point of order. Point of order.
So, a point of order is I will
Mr.
decide
Pastu,
on
answer
certain
that
things
question.
here. So, if Mr. Pastu does want to answer something like that, please.
You know, if I may, Mayor, at the start, what started a lot of this is the rumors out there that big changes were coming. And, I'll be honest with you, I kind of just let it go. And what drove it was when I started hearing that employees were starting to feel worried about their jobs. And so, okay, we gotta make a decision here. That's what prompted it. My interpretation, based on election campaign discussions that dealt with Mr. Regentine and Shepherd. And so the memo, in many parts, deals with, okay, if Mr. Regentine, who's a direct report to me, is part of the issue, give me a separation or an employment agreement for him that would protect his interest, and he can either voluntarily resign, which we would accept under those terms. But as I said, I felt like I would be crippled as a manager for putting, in essence, political pressure on me. In the future, it would certainly hurt me as a leader of the organization. And so I'm perfectly accepting of that, just so everybody understands if that was the issue. And so where I went back at the start of this, when the dialogue was, well, what's it going to take to try and get this resolved? The answer is, let's deal with resolving Mark's situation. That really is at the end, that's a starting point. There's still more to be done, but from my end of it, it's let's get that resolved, because I do, again, feel Mark is a very important person. Obviously, the success that he's enjoyed in Lake Mary and also here has been recognized tonight, and I think everyone appreciates his contribution in the reports. That's really the start of it, is that there. And there's other broader issues that we can talk later on, but if the council is uncomfortable with making that commitment, again, I'm accepting of that as well.
Thank you. Okay, seeing other comments. Usually, when we make a motion and a second, we go to the public, and Mr. Shepherd?
Yes, sir. Well, in this case, the motion is consistent with what was discussed prior to going to the public. The public has an opportunity to comment on it already, so it is not raising new ground. So I believe the public participation requirement has been met for this particular motion. If there's other motions, I'll listen to them and I'll make the same determination as I hear them.
Okay, fine, thank you. Okay, and any other comments by the council? And can we have a...
I guess I do have one.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know, Mr. Pastu, that Mr. Regentin's contract status or whatever is important to you, and I understand that. I had hoped that we could use some cooling off time or whatever to not deal with personnel issues, meaning, you know, one way or the other, but to delineate some goals and priorities, and work on better understanding the charter, for instance, and discussing your SWOT analysis and so on, and revisit the personnel issues, you know, pick a time, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, or something like that, to see how, because as I believe mistakes have been made all around, I think we need to work through that first, and so I guess I just wanted to express that.
Is there any other comments from council?
I've got one, Mark. I'm going to vote against the motion, and only I make that because I don't know that voting for it appreciably gives anything more for Mr. Pastu to bring to the second, and just because I don't want to cloud it, I'm going to vote against it.
Is there any other comments? Can we have a vote, please, Ms. John?
Everybody understands what they're voting on?
Okay, but please, yes, please read the motion again, if you would. If, whatever your best of your understanding.
Let me find it, hold on.
And if it needs clarifying, we'll make sure it's clarified.
You know, my notes don't make a lot of sense, so I'm going to tell you what I believe the motion was.
Would you like me to help? Because I actually think I got it, and if I got it wrong, when I listened very carefully to Mr. Crail, and he outlined 3 points that he thought that a relationship needed to heal. Then when we went to the public and came back, I heard Mr. Rolfson's motion be to have Mr. Pastu address those points at the meeting on the 2nd. So the combination of Mr. Crail's 3 points, which he said before the public period, and Mr. Rolfson saying, please come back and tell us how you would address those things, how we heal the relationship, I think that's the substance of the motion.
I agree.
There you go. This is so simple. Okay, can we have a vote, Ms. John, please?
Okay, Ms. Tillett?
I'm sorry, but I'm not really prepared to vote on this. I don't understand.
Well, Ms. Stoll, we're past the discussion stage, and
It's been
Right,
point of
then I
order.
will have to vote no.
As a point of, okay. As a point of order, the board's general pace has been to always have the person making the motion vote first and the person seconding vote second.
I am so sorry.
We
Let me
don't-
start
okay.
over.
But that's okay, no, we don't have to, we don't follow that kind of, and sometimes Mrs. John does one way, does another way, and I don't hold her any specific order of roll call, except for the mayor going last. That's the only rule that we've applied. So with that, against your point of order, we'll continue with the roll, with the call, with the
I'm
vote,
going to
please.
start over.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Rolfson?
I don't care what order it is, I vote yes.
Thank you. Ms. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
No.
Mr. Krail?
Yes.
Mr. Roulette?
No.
Ms. Tillett?
No.
Mayor Jerome?
No.
Motion fails.
Hey, no, hold it now, please. That is totally uncalled for, even though sometimes my wife calls me that. Please, it's uncalled for. Okay,
Is that it for the meeting?
I have a motion for adjournment.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you again for coming tonight.